Hello again, everyone. Today I am here with a little bit of a haul from Jackson's Art Supply, and I'm going to be swatching all of these materials for you today. So I have one colored pencil, just the one. Most of these are either acrylic markers or watercolor markers, and then I have some Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2 crayons, and then finally this Ecoline liquid watercolor color. So basically all of these, I purchased all of these to do mixed media work, and all of these I think will work really well in that context. Basically with the Neocolor 2s, I was trying to fill gaps that were in my collection of these, and there were some colors that I was continually wishing that I had, like just some standards that I was kind of surprised I didn't have, so I added those. And then these markers, which are by Molotow, are relatively new to me. I have not used these before, but I always do like a good acrylic marker for mixed media. So the majority of these are those Molotov markers. And actually, let me put this here because that is another marker just super big. And then these three here are watercolor markers. I've never tried these. These are by Faber-Castell. They're the artist Albrecht Dürer line. And then this is Ecoline liquid watercolor. I have several watercolors, but I don't have this basic color, which I think is burnt sienna. Let's see, does it say? It just says 411, but I think the title or the name of it is actually burnt sienna. So I was kind of trying to fill out my collection there. And again, with watercolor, or this is not a watercolor pencil. This is just a plain colored pencil. This is a Holbein Colored Pencil, and it's in Burgundy, which is a color that I was kind of wanting from them as well. Believe it or not, out of all of these different things, I mean, the Ecoline might have been on par with the pencil, but this pencil was the most expensive individual item, I think. I can't remember how much the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils were, but most of these were very inexpensive, much cheaper than I could get here in the United States. I actually did price them out. So I will put a link to the products that I have here. What I'll probably do is just put a link to the main page for the Molotow acrylic markers, and then the Faber-Castell watercolor markers, etc. And those will all be to Jackson's, which actually have these shipped very fast. I would say between the time that I ordered and when I received them was only a few days. But I did pay a shipping fee sometimes. I don't know what's up with shipping with them. Sometimes shipping is free. Sometimes shipping is very, very cheap. And sometimes shipping is sort of a normal, regular amount. I think this was $7 shipping for all of these items. There's actually some other items that I didn't include here because they're probably not interesting to you to watch me swatch, so I didn't include them. But all of these items, $7 for essentially like, 2-3 day service from the UK is pretty reasonable in my opinion. All right, well, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get swatching. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the water media first, and then I'm going to do these acrylic markers second. So this and the pencil, none of those are water soluble, so I'll do the water soluble things first. I'm going to be doing all of these swatches on watercolor paper, which I have here. This is my Pentalic watercolor field book. This is the one I use for most of my swatches on the channel. It'll be really good for the water media. It is textured because it's cold pressed, so I'm not sure how great it is for the markers. I just don't, I'd have to research a different paper to use. Like I could use a mixed media paper, I suppose, but since this is handy, I'll just keep them all in one place. And then because I have been doing swatches in these for quite some time, I might do a flip through of all the different swatches once this book is filled. Okay, so I'm gonna put those acrylic markers off to the side there. And then I'm also gonna put these up here where I can select from them. I'm trying to keep them in the color order I have because that order kind of makes sense. We'll see how much sense it makes once we continue. And I will zoom in just a little bit so you can see the swatches better, and I will hold the paper closer to the camera before we end. I do have a pot of water off to the side to wet the Neocolor 2 crayons. I think I'll try my hand at wetting the watercolor markers as well. Sometimes if I'll have to do it right away, because sometimes if you don't get to it right away, it seeps into the paper and is a little bit harder. So it's kind of better if you have a paper that's not so absorbent with those. But I'll see what effects we can get, and same goes for the liquid watercolor, which I think I'll do first. But I also have a water brush, or a watercolor brush here. It is a Princeton Velvet Touch Round brush, which I think can also be used for acrylics, but I won't be wetting the acrylic marker portion of the swatching, because I think, although you probably could wet them, I will not be doing that today. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna get my brush a little bit wet here. Put it off to the side where I can get to it pretty quickly. All right, so let's go with the Ecoline first. And I should do another swatching of the other Ecoline liquid watercolors that I have, because I do have a bit of a set of those. So I'm just adding some water to my brush here. Oh, and this is a very, very pretty color. Let's see. I had quite a bit of water, and I'm just going to go ahead and spread that around. Some spots will be a little less saturated than others. Okay, and then let's do the markers next, the watercolor markers. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a loaded brush with water so that I have that right away. And this is two-ended, and this color is Indian Red. And I won't label these on camera because that would take too long to swatch and then label, but I will do that for myself afterwards. But I will tell you what colors they are. Like I said, that the liquid watercolor was 411, which I believe is the burnt sienna color. And then this is an Indian Red. And these I think are relatively new. There's two tips here. There's a brush tip and a sort of a felt tip on one side. So let's see. That's a pretty color. Okay, so that actually works fairly well to, let's see if I can get a little bit more of a fade here. Oh, it didn't absorb super fast, so that's nice. I will do that with the brush tip portion, and then I'll draw some lines with the felt tip portion underneath here. Okay. Put the ones we've done already off to the side. And then I'm going to go with this dark indigo, which is one of my favorite colors with pretty much anything. And I'm getting, oh, that's weird. So I am at elevation here in Colorado. So sometimes weird things like this happen. I think this is probably because of the pressure at elevation, but it doesn't seem to be having any impact on the pigment itself. Let's see. It's interesting because this one looks just slightly more streaky than the prior color. Let's go ahead and cap that. And then the last color I had, they actually were out of the color that I really wanted to get, which was sort of a lighter turquoise color. But this is Cobalt Turquoise, which we'll see. It's a little darker than maybe it was teal. I can't remember. It was either teal or turquoise. And again, I want to have that brush ready to go here. So let's go ahead and, oh, it's a lovely color though. Really lovely color. Really, really beautiful. Don't regret getting that at all. These are really nice. Okay. So those are the only 3 watercolor markers. Oop, I realize that's out of the frame there, so I'll show you that. And before we go off, it's so luminous. It's actually really, really nice. And you can actually dilute it out so that it is a lighter color, which is nice. And this is more of like a Payne's gray than a true indigo, I would say, because it's not showing up super blue. It's more gray, in my opinion. And this Indian Red, which is sort of a darker version of this burnt sienna, which is really, really nice. Okay, so let's go on to, I think I'm gonna do the Neo Color 2 here, and then I'm gonna go on to the other side and do the acrylic markers over there. So let's go ahead and start lightest, well, not necessarily lightest to darkest, but this is a silver gray. Make sure you can see that. I'm gonna go pretty saturated here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wet half of this sample here so that you can see. I'm going to go ahead and go in after each one. There's not necessarily a time frame on these, but for this one especially, I kind of want to figure out how big I want these to be. So that is definitely a light gray, but it's very beautiful. Okay. And then the next color that I have is beige, which, you know, not super exciting, beige, but it's, I was looking for more neutrals in my palette for these, and this kind of fits the bill for that. And it's kind of a nice beige color. I don't think it's necessarily too boring, because sometimes beige can be fairly boring. And let's see, these re-wet lovely in a lovely way. And if you really work at it, you could probably get all of the underlying marks out of there. I mean, that did pretty good. This one you can still see some marks, and it also seems to depend on the color. Some colors are better at mixing with the water than others. Okay, so then the next one here is, this is dark gray. Lovely color. And I'm generally using these with water, but you can use them, you know, just as a crayon, and have that sort of mottled look when you're on watercolored paper like this, because it's picking up the texture of the watercolor paper. This is lovely and creamy, this dark gray. Okay, and then the next color I have here is Vandyke Brown. I'm gonna try and fit one more here in this row, so I'm gonna go this way a little bit more. Vandyke Brown. That's lovely. I also realized I didn't have a lot of browns, so I was trying to expand upon that. And Vandyke Brown is actually a really nice color in watercolor. One of the things too is I've been trying to sort of match colors for supplies so that I can use different media in the same piece, but using the same colors so that they can kind of match. This is Vandyke Brown. And then this one is Alizarin Crimson hue. Okay, and that's the last one I'm going to do on this row. I'm going to start another row here. That's lovely. And for some reason, this line seems to be lacking in darker reds. This was really the only darker red that I could find. And even this is not like super, I was looking for more of like a burgundy color, and I didn't really see that. I'm gonna have to take a look. I just wonder if Jackson's doesn't have it, or if they just really don't have a burgundy, but nonetheless, this is really beautiful. I mean, this is almost like a beautiful blood-like color. It's a very deep red. Okay, so now I'm gonna go down to the next row here. And this is Burnt Sienna. Probably should have tried to do that below this one so that we could have a comparison. This one's very dark for a burnt sienna, I have to say. And if you were working with these on smoother paper, you could get less of a texture. Obviously, this is just because I'm working on watercolor paper, the texture of the paper is coming through with the crayon. Okay, and actually this burnt sienna is more like that Indian red that's up there. And then we have Cinnamon. I was kind of surprised that I didn't have very many neutrals with my existing Neocolor 2s. And I was really feeling like I was needing them. Okay, well that's lovely. I really like that. And they really mix beautifully for a crayon. I mean, this is not your average water-soluble crayon. This is really an artist quality crayon. Okay, and then this one is raw sienna. Again, going for a neutral here. And that's a beautiful color too. Oh, and just noticed there have a little dollop of water on my leather mat here. Trying to get that off so that it doesn't soak into that. I definitely am not trying to keep this desk mat pristine, but don't want it to get too damaged with water. Okay, that one's lovely. It's a really good neutral as well. And then here I have a Sahara Yellow, which is going to be fairly light, but I think you'll still be able to see it. I have some shadows going on from my hand, but like I said, I will put this up to the camera towards the end still. Okay, Sahara Yellow, which is super creamy when wetting that out. Very nice. It's almost like a Naples yellow. Okay, and then the last one for this row is this light olive, which looked sort of to me like a green gold, which is kind of what I was hoping for, but we'll see. We'll see what it looks like in the swatch here. Yeah, I think it's similar, but it's definitely not an exact match to a green gold, but it is similar. It looks like I have some little dust bits here. Okay, now let's go down to the next row for these last three, and then I think I will also do the pencil here on the bottom. So this next one that I have is dark green. Again, not sure why I didn't have a dark green before. Okay. It's still pretty bright for a dark green. I think these colors with the Neocolor 2 do tend to be a little bit brighter rather than more leaning on the neutral side, but this is actually lovely. I think this will work great as a darker green. Okay, and then next I have Night Blue. And all of the dark blues that I have already, they're just not the perfect color of dark blue. So I definitely was searching for another light blue, or another dark blue, sorry. Okay, that's really pretty. I really like that. It definitely seems like a warm blue, more along the lines of a ultramarine, sort of like a dark ultramarine blue. That's really nice. And these are super, super pigmented, so you will get a lot of pigment out of these when you wet them. And then the last one I have for the Neocolor 2s is Aubergine, which is, you know, both a dark color and sort of a neutral. I'm not sure how neutral this purple is though, but we shall see. Yeah, I mean, that could be used sort of as a neutral. It doesn't like yell purple here, which is good. Okay, so that's it for the Neocolor 2s. And then I am going to swatch this Burgundy Holbein pencil. And again, the texture of the paper is coming out, but you are gonna get less of that texture on a smoother paper, obviously. So that's lovely. That's more the color that I was hoping that this one was, but this is still beautiful. I actually really love that red, so I'm really glad that I got it, but it's not really the more muted red that I was hoping for, but maybe there just isn't one for the Neo color too. All right, so there's those. And I'll show you those one more time before going to the other page here. Really love these Neo color 2s. Okay. So for the acrylic markers, I'm going to line those up, and I'm going to have to be shaking these. So you're going to hear some ball bearings, which are in these markers, as I shake them. And hopefully that won't be too distracting for you. All right, there we go. Let's put that there. So I'm going to start with this monster one. So this is 15 millimeters. And let's see, should I, let me cut through this. I have a little knife here. I'm going to cut through this band instead of peeling it off. Let's see if that works. Yeah. But before I take that off, I'm going to shake it. Okay. And all of these markers, before they start, they have this white color, because that is the actual color of the, oh, okay, so that seems to be coming down into the marker pretty good. Oh, and this is a lovely neutral color, which you can't see because my hand is in front of it. You can obviously get a really nice block of color here. And those, you could make really good marks once the color has completely saturated, but this is all I really needed for that. So this is really, really great. Love that color. Okay, and then I have this little pack of neutrals, which ended up being less expensive to get in this little pack than to get individually. So these are 2 millimeter, as are the majority of the rest of them that I'm going to swatch. Actually, I have the white one that I have is 4 millimeter. So that one's the only one that's bigger. The only reason why I got a bigger one for that is because the other white markers that I have already are a thinner line. So I kind of wanted to go up a notch for another white marker. And that really is a beautiful color. It's kind of interesting. Let me see whether it's soaked through. Nope. It hasn't soaked through to the other side with this thick watercolor paper. So that bodes well. Okay, and then this color, that was Burgundy, if I didn't say. I think it said Burgundy. Oh boy, are they not labeled with the colors? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, here it is. It's on the sticker. Yes, so that was Burgundy. This is Hazelnut Brown. Okay. A really nice neutral. Actually, I probably don't need to be that small about it. I can get a big. Okay, Hazelnut Brown, which I'm going to put back into this box. I'm going to keep that together for now anyway. The next one that we have is lobster. Really? Yeah, it says it's lobster color. So let's see what that ends up being. Okay, I'm trying to make sure they're shaken up pretty well so that we can get good representation. And these prime really, really fast. Ooh, I like that. That's really nice. Really nice neutral. Okay. These were all kind of neutral. They might also be skin tones. I don't know. They might be. Because I think, let's see what the set says. It is, doesn't say. I'll put a link down below to this particular set. Because I'm shaking the markers, you're going to hear my voice wavering as I'm shaking. Yeah, these are great. These have really great opacity. Not all acrylic markers have that. So this is really, really nice. And like I said, they prime really, really fast. This is another great color, which is Ochre Brown Light. Make sure those are in your view there. And then the next color is Sahara Beige Pastel. And you really want to make sure that you get a pretty good shake on these to make sure that the color is all evenly distributed inside the marker. Again, really nice neutral. Okay. And then this one is Peach Pastel. But yeah, I had a lot of these individual colors in my shopping cart, and then I realized that if I got this little set with these neutrals that it would be more cost effective. Super easy to prime. Oh, that's super peachy. I like it though. That's nice. Okay, I think that's the last one for that. Well, let's do the last, well, no. I keep changing my mind as I'm talking. I am gonna go ahead and put this last one that's in this set down below here. So this one is Skin Pastel, obviously light skin pastel. I think I've talked about that before on the channel, how I really hate how they call light colors skin colors, because skin colors come in all shades from very dark to very light. So I don't like it when they just refer to lighter colors as skin. That's not very inclusive and nice of them to do that. All that said, this is a lovely color. And they do seem to be pretty wet. Like I am feeling a little bit of the pilling on the watercolor paper. If I kept going, I probably would pill up the paper quite a bit. And so I want to have somewhat of a light hand. And again, that's really just the texture of the paper. Okay, so now we're on to individual colors again. So this one is Purple Violet, which if it is the color shown, it really is one of my favorite types of colors. I'm going to start a new row here. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Super gorgeous, really deep dark purple. Okay, and actually what I haven't tried yet, okay, so they do post on the back if you don't want to lose your caps. So that's kind of nice. And I didn't check that for the larger one. Let's see, does the larger one? Yep, the larger one also posts, so that's nice. And this still needs to go all the way through the marker. This will be all this burgundy color once it is fully primed, but like I said, I didn't really need it to be all the way primed. Then this one is Petrol, which should be a really beautiful dark blue. Really liking these really liking these acrylic markers, and I think this is going to open up like so many new fun ideas. Yeah, it's sort of a dark teal. And it looks like the side of the brush is developing a little bit of texture there, and I don't know if that's from the paper, like a little bit of pilling on the actual brush tip. So I'm wondering if that is just the paper texture. So don't use watercolor paper for these acrylics. This is just for swatching purposes today. Okay, and then this color is dark blue gray. We'll see how blue this gray is, because it really looks gray to me. It's pretty gray. Not a lot of blue going on in there to me. Okay, and then we have a cool gray pastel. Oh, and there is a clear window here where you can see how much you have left. And these are supposedly refillable. And the refills are less expensive than the original marker. One of the issues I have though with that is the actual felt tip piece going to wear out. And I'm not sure if you can get replacement felt tips. I would assume you can, but I haven't really looked into that. This is a beautiful gray. Okay, then we have gray blue light. So presumably it's going to be a lighter version of this one here. These are so nice. I'm so excited about all these really nice neutral colors. I do, however, like some pops of color here and there in my work. So I'll have to see if I want to do another round with maybe some brighter colors. Okay. And then let's go ahead and start another row down here. This is Amazonas Light. It should be sort of a light green, light muted green. These are all really great colors though. It's hard to find neutral, oh yeah, especially like this. It's really hard to find neutral acrylic markers. The latest set that I got from, oh goodness, this place that sells notebooks. I've forgotten now, but I have been able to get some fairly neutral markers from that place. They have hardcover notebooks. Oh my God, I've forgotten. But just sort of like the main brands, like even with Liquitex or, I don't know that Golden makes markers, acrylic markers, but Liquitex certainly does. And their colors are all kind of standard colors. So this one is Lagoon Blue, but this really looks green to me. But this would be a very nice pop of color. Beautiful. And then I did get a metallic. I got a metallic gold. I'm gonna do that one. And then I'm actually gonna mark some white spots on this larger swatch here with the white pen, because that's the only way you'll be able to see it on the paper. Okay. Oh, and that came out quite a bit there. And this one actually is finer. It is a 1.5. And I got the finer one because the opposite is true for most of my collection, is that I have broader based metallic markers. Okay, so then the last one here is this 4mm white acrylic pen. And let's see how this one works. I'm gonna try and prime. It's harder to tell. Oops, and then there's always some pour over. You can kind of see the white against the white here. Oh, actually, I think this is not true white. This is off-white, so you will be able to see. Yeah, this is a natural white. Oh, I forgot. So you will be able to see that. That's nice, because I didn't want a pure white. I remember now. Okay, and then let's actually still see what it looks like. Yeah, so that's great. All right. So I'm also, they're not all going to be completely dry like the metallic, although the metallic I feel like is not really showing up as super metallic on the page, but maybe when it dries a little bit more, it will. The earlier ones are dry. I'd say the last two are probably not dry, partially because that white one came out so wet. But these are really great colors. I'm really super stoked about these. And then here we have these again. Okay, and this is definitely a longer video, so I'm going to stop here. But like I said, I'm going to put the links to these products down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. And I hope to see you next time. But in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.